All right. Are you?
Keep going.
Okay.
Recording.
I can?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, oh, just introduction to why we're having a meeting.
Okay.
Rachel.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining. We have Rachel from Care Suite QMAR with us. We've been kind of gathering questions from everybody about, different opportunities with QMAR, how we're working the QMAR. So we wanted to have Rachel on board to kind of walk us through some of the other items that they have, such as the assessment piece. No, that's not this call. That's not this call, never mind. I did not say that. We want to look at QMAR and look at how we're putting in our psychoactives, how we could incorporate our meal roster into QMAR. Want to look at just how we're adding our treatments. I've noticed that when we add treatments, I honestly have to tell you, I don't think I could work without Steve Bay. He keeps me on track. I have another project with Care Suite going on, and that was what was in my mind. So we're going to be looking at treatment MARs. I want to look at how we are documenting in our notes section. Rachel is our QMAR expert and here to help us, so please take advantage of this time to ask your questions. We can use the chat box as we go through items. That way we're not talking over each other. But this is the time that, we've rolled out QMAR on every single community has it. We've had enough time to use it. We've had enough time to develop questions and concerns. So I'm going to start with Pacific View because Leslie, is Tiana on?
Yep, we are here.
Okay, Tiana has used QMARs before and has brought up some good questions. So let's start with Pacific View and go through some of their challenges, questions, and concerns. Are you guys okay doing that?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
So how would you go about merging orders? So if a Med-Aid had put in an order because pharmacy had not done so yet, once pharmacy puts that order in, how do you merge the two together?
All right, let's walk through that. All right, so here we have alprazolam. For this Wilma Perks, we have 2 alprazolams. We've got one manually entered by Sarah Allen and one that was imported from the pharmacy. Now, the problem that we have with this one in my training database is that the dates are too far away from each other, but I'm just going to kind of walk you through the steps on how it works. So we're going to go to this 3 little line, and just want to make sure that you can see it. So right here, we're going to click on that. And we're going to go to merge order. When we click on merge order, what we would see here is this alprazolam flag right in here. We would select the alprazolam from this screen. I'm just going to select Tylenol. Okay. So then it's going to verify the schedule first. So we see here that the schedule doesn't match. We have 3 times on the existing one and 2 times on the new one. So we would have to fix any schedule issues first. So let's just fix this calcium. Of course, it's going to be difficult. Sorry, guys. Oops, don't let me. Today is just not my day, I'm thinking. Let's try this again. Here's amoxicillin. All right, let's try that again. So we're going to click on this three little line button. It doesn't matter which one you select first. Select merge order. Select the order that you want to merge it with. Select next. Okay, so it's just going to make sure the schedules match and it's the correct drugs match each other. Okay, so then one thing that you'll have to look at when you're in this screen here is, first of all, we're going to see the history for the manually entered amoxicillin at the top, and then history for the imported amoxicillin at the bottom. Now, if you guys have manually entered this antibiotic and then you sent it to the pharmacy, but you've administered it on your manually entered order, you're going to want to keep the administration history for that manually entered medication. Or you can keep the administration history for all of the results if you want to. And then you're going to hit next. It's going to show you what the administration history will look like once those two orders are merged together. And then we're going to hit finished. Now, when we do that, it takes that from 2 amoxicillins to 1. Now, they added a new feature that I just want to make sure you're aware of. Again, we're going to go here up into this little 3 line up in the upper corner here. And we're going to select unmerge. So when we select unmerge orders, we have a pop-up box that pops up here, and then you'll see any merged order in this drop-down list. So since amoxicillin is the only order that's been merged, I'm going to select amoxicillin. It's going to tell me the merged order, what order 1 initially was, and what order 2 was. So then we're going to select OK. It's basically we're going to restore them to what they were before, and we're just going to say yes. And what that's going to do is it's going to resplit them back out. Questions on that? Hello?
I'm sorry, you
There.
cut out.
No questions.
No questions. Okay. All right. What else can I answer for you? Got the merging.
Our next question was, when we're monitoring the bowel movements, say for our residents in memory care, is there a way to print a report so that we could see like a certain resident's bowel history for a month?
So you can go to the resident profile screen. So if I go to the profile, I'm just going to enable this on her real quick. All right, so I'm in the resident profile screen. I have this bowel health tab here. If I click on bowel health, I'll see any bowel health activity log for this resident, and this is going to default to the last 7 days. I can go back and view a custom period. I can view the last 6 months, 90 days, etc. But it's going to show anytime a bowel movement was recorded and anytime a bowel health medication was administered, whether that be a PRN.
Perfect. That's exactly what we were looking for. And then I think the last question we have here at Pacific View is, it was mentioned that you can monitor meal attendance, and how do you activate something like that on QMAR?
Do you guys have ADLs turned on currently? This ADL button right here?
I think so. I think so.
Okay, so you can record it in there or you can record it in your MedPass. The difference would just be where you want it printed. So if you want meal things such as that printed on the MAR, then you can put it in the MedPass. But otherwise the ADL would work. So if we go into our resident orders and we click on our resident, we're going to go to the ADL tab here at the top. So she has here her ADLs, but for this one example, we've got eating and drinking, assist with cutting up food. Yours would probably be more or less the same thing, just did they go to dinner or did they not? So you can create a libraried item, or you can just manually add that in there and then have record options. I'm guessing that you want to have them record how much they ate or if they participated or.
Yes.
Okay.
Both.
So let's just add it in here. So you want meal meal attendance. Is that more or less what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we're just going to put meal attendance. We're going to select record. In the version 4.2, you now have the ability to record up to 6 different vitals. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. It was 4 before, and now they've added the 2 additional. So then you can go in here and what do you want to record? Do you want to record the amount they ate? Do you want to record whether they went and had dinner? So you would just type in this box. So you can select from the drop down or you can type in the box. So let's just say we want consumed percentage and then we want attended, something along those lines. So then we're going to enter the instructions. I'm guessing you want it 3 times a day.
Yeah, 3 times a day, please.
Okay. Then we would just add our times in here 3 times. So we would just say 8 a.m., noon, and 5 p.m. Then I'm going to hit save. Category. Okay, so now that order is in there for her. You can also create a libraried item by going to this pick from list and clicking this edit library. If you edit the library, you can create a categoried list of items here, like we have eating and drinking, and then we have our orders within that category or that service. So you can create it in there. It'll be a standard template, and then you can just attach that to anybody that you want to. And once you've created a libraried item, you would just hit this little check mark to add those orders to this resident. When I click those check marks and hit done, it's going to throw those 2 new orders in there for me for this resident. So does adding it make sense? I want to show you what it looks like when you go to record it. It's the same thing as a MedPass. It just basically asks for this information that you requested. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to go to record ADLs. And I'm going to go into our PM pass here so I can record her evening. And we're going to pick on my friend Wilma. All right. And then we have this meal attendance. It's new. We're going to check mark that, hit next. It's basically asking me if I want to continue without selecting either of these items, and I do. So I'm going to hit continue. And then here I can put the consumed percentage. Oh, it doesn't look like my other one saved in there. So then I could put the amount consumed and then hit record all. Questions about that?
Nope, I think we're good. Rachel, this is Peggy.
Hi, Peggy.
Is there a way to, hi there, is there a way to print just that particular item, like on the bow tab? Is there a way to, so if I wanted to look at meal or food consumption at Pacific View Memory Care, do I need to look individually or could I run a separate report?
So there's an ADL log. You can view the ADL log here. Yep, you can do it in the ADL log, or you can do it in the resident vital signs, which is kind of cool. So if I click on the resident vital signs, and I'm going to select my patient, Wilma. And I'm just going to run it from the 1st to the 29th. Mm-hmm. And here, if you'll see, we have the consumed amount right there.
Perfect.
So what you can do is you can go here and you can select the vital that you want to see. So maybe you don't want to see all types. You want to see just consumed. So consumed would be on your list, and my training site is not happy with me. So you would just select consumed, and it would just show you just the consumed and not the weekly weights or any additional vitals. And you can run that for all residents. Yep, so you can run it for all residents, and then each resident would just be divided by a page. So if I just select everyone and hit view report, then it's just separated by page. So first we have Shelly Anderson here. If I move to my next page, then I have Leanne, so on and so forth. So there's not necessarily a snapshot glance. You'd have to look at each individual resident in order to determine who's eating how much.
Look by day. Yeah.
Do you want me to ask that question?
No, I could. Hey, Rachel, this is Stephen. Would you be able to sort? Would you be able to sort by date? See the consumption by day? Or is it
no.
just by resident?
It's by resident. Yep. You can export them. So like if you wanted to export a snapshot of every resident, you can export it to like a Word or Excel document, and then you can kind of configure it and look at it that way as a larger glance.
Sure.
If you wanted to look at a specific date, could you just select the start and end date and then see that specific date for all residents?
That just would be the same.
Yep, absolutely. So it's going to be the same scenario. So if I select 6/28 and end on 6/29, we're going to hit view report. Every resident will have a page. It's just going to be a smaller list of numbers. So these are the only two vitals that we've recorded for these patients, is for Edgar and Wilma.
Hey, Rachel, for the communities that don't have or may not have the ADL option turned on, how would they go about adding this meal function?
So you can enable the ADLs, or you can put it in the MedPass. So to enable the ADLs, you're going to go to Admin, Settings, Facility Settings. And then we're going to go to MedPass Customization. And then you have your ADL section right here. You would just enable that ADL tracking and hit save, and then that would enable that. Or you can add it into the resident order screen at the orders level. So again, we're going to go back into Wilma, and here I'm on her order screen, and I can click add. Maybe I want it to be a vital sign, maybe I want it to be a treatment. I'll just select treatment. And then we would just put in our same information, meals, etc., so on and so forth. Select our record options. And then save the order. Now this would put that into the treatments on the med screen is where they would record this.
Okay. So we don't want that option. We want to use the ADL.
So group on the phone, we want to use the ADL tab for your meal roster. For assisted living, meal attendance, for memory care, percentage of food consumed. But we want to go through the ADL tab. Rachel, as you were walking us through that, we made a decision to go through the ADL tab.
Okay. Excellent. So we're just going to go to ADLs here. So when you go to your resident orders, you'll just pull up your ADLs. So again, that's admin settings.
And then I want to take weights off of the paper system or how we're doing it, and I want to use it to start to track weights in the ADL tab as well. And that's for both assisted living and memory care.
You want the weights in the ADL section or the order section as a vital?
I want it in the ADL section. If it's a physician-ordered weight monitoring, then we would put it in the MedPass.
Makes sense.
That way we know if it's an order. That's perfect.
Yeah, weight orders would go into MedPass, so. And that's like our daily weights for fluid and stuff like that, so. Is there anything, Rachel, is there anything extra they have to do going back to the bowel tab, monitoring tab that you showed us? When we enter a resident into QMAR, bowel activity log, and this is information that is on the MARs for the medications that we give?
Correct. So any bowel health medication would show here. So like if she took a Senna or a polyethylene glycol, or maybe she had to go the opposite direction and take some Rodol or something like that, that would all show here.
Okay, but when we put it into QMAR, we have to put it in as a bowel health medication for it to read it, or I want to make sure that we're capturing or that we're putting in the right language into the MAR for the reports to capture what we're looking for. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So we use a third-party drug database. So if I go here and I go to add a medication and I start typing, I have a drop-down. So this third-party drug database is what tells us if it's a bowel health medication or not. And obviously, orders that come from the pharmacy will also signify that as well. But selecting from the drop-down is the best way to get that bowel health medication to show on the report.
Okay. So using the drop-down is hugely important, is what I heard you say.
Yes.
Not in those exact words. Okay.
More or less, yes.
So I want to make sure the group heard that when they're adding a medication to use that drop-down to ensure that you're capturing the information, because the reports won't, I have a feeling the reports won't show accurately if we don't do that. Correct, Rachel?
Right.
Okay. I apologize, I'm having a hard time articulating my thought on that. My basic concern is just to make sure that the log is a true reflection of bowel medications. So I don't want to have any bumps in the road with that.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just make sure you're select party that drop down of medications, and then they have their own drug categories since they're in, and this automatically falls. Obviously, it's a bowel health category. So.
Okay. Okay, group, I'm sorry. Pacific View, do you have any more questions?
No, we don't have any more questions here.
Okay. Seaview, do you have questions?
And I'm going to defer that to Chris. Yeah, I think we're good.
You guys answered the question I had just now.
Crystal, how did you enter your meal roster into, did you enter it under ADL or meds?
I haven't entered it yet. They're still trying to adjust because we weren't communicating with Omnicare yet. So I have to go back in and merge orders, and then I was going to ask about how to do that, but I was just shown.
Okay, so you're going to put it under the ADL tab.
Yeah, and then you wanted the monthly vitals that we do on paper underneath ADL also?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to get off of paper and moving into electronic and using QMARs to full potential to capture all the information we need for each resident.
Okay.
Because we can look at this remotely and provide support.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to call and say fax this over or scan this over. So everything will be housed here that we need. Okay?
Okay.
Wheatfields, do you have any questions?
I don't, no ma'am.
Caitlin, are you feeling good about QMARs and how to use it?
I am. I feel like some of our med aides need to learn a little bit more, but I'm going to get with them and train them on how to use it. But I think our biggest issue is not with the ADLs. We're not using that yet, obviously, but is choosing the exceptions. I think
Okay,
they're not
so this
throwing
is-
out. I
So,
did an in-service
Rachel?
on that. So.
Rachel, would you walk us through exceptions?
In the MedPass, recording an exception or viewing exceptions, or
I think they're just clicking on one. And I typed up an in-service and I had some of the girls sign it. I have to do the rest of them just on which ones to choose. I think that some people are just clicking. Like, I need to know why people are physically unable to take their medication, and they're just clicking that. There's no note. And
so here's how I would fix that. So if we go to admin, settings, drop down menus,
mm-hmm.
and we're going to go to exceptions. It's the second tab here.
Okay.
We have all of our exception list, and these are standard. They come with everything: out of facility, given by home health, given to family to give later, withheld, and resident refused. These are just our standard ones. So if you've added any, what you can do is require a note with that recorded exception. So if I record that this resident refused, I want a note stating why they refused. So I'm going to check that record note spot and hit save. And then when they go into the MedPass, they mark resident refused for anyone, it's going to force us to add a note. So let me just walk you through that.
Okay, so they can't go anywhere else without putting that note in.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Oh.
We're here. Did someone new
okay.
join?
No, it was me. I think I got kicked off and then back on. Sorry. Did you hear all that?
Nope. Well, all we saw was the screen and then it was quiet.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let's start over again. So we're going to go to admin, settings, drop down menus. We have our second tab here is our exceptions. We have our list of exceptions. So any exception that you want to require a note for, we're just going to select the require note and hit save. Okay, so every time I record resident refused as an exception, I'm going to be prompted to enter a note. So now when I go to my MedPass, and I'm going to select Shelley again, and her orders. And I'm going to select a resident refused for her weight. And all, it's going to ask me to add a note for that weekly weight because I entered resident refused.
Nice. So in this section, we could say why, and then we could also say PCP notified.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that, Caitlin, do you have any more questions?
No, ma'am. That's it.
Okay. Elk Meadows, are you on the call? Is Elk Meadows not on? Westwind? Crystal, Donna, Steve. I don't know who caller 1, 2, and 3 is. Do we have Parkland on? Well, that's disappointing. Okay. So we've talked about the quick tab for bowel health, using the ADL tab to track vital signs, meal attendance, and food consumption for memory care. We've talked about using the ADL tab for our monthly weight report, and if it's a physician ordered or nurse ordered weight, it would go on the MedPass. We talked about duplicate orders. We've talked about exceptions and how to add that you require a note. What else do we need to cover, group?
I wanted to cover cars and their clients.
Okay, so I have 3 things I want to just make sure we're using the system correctly. So we have PRN psychoactives, and those require interventions, Rachel. And so when we add those to our MAR, I really think everyone has done or understands that process, but I just want to confirm that with this phone call. So when we add interventions, I'm seeing the note section being left empty, and I'm really trying to show the group that the note section should just be treated just like the back of a paper MAR. And that's where you would document if your first intervention attempt was successful, second, or third. Correct, Rachel?
Correct. Now, I would do it a different way because we have a non-pharmacological intervention setting. So if I go to admin settings, facility settings.
This is exactly what I want you to show them.
Okay. Let's see. So we've got define where it is. Okay, so right here we have in our order management tab, non-pharmacological interventions. Give me the option of tracking non-pharmacological interventions for some PRN medications. I'm going to check that box and hit save. All right, so a couple things we have to do before we add that to the resident order is we're going to go to admin settings, drop down menus. And now we're going to cruise over here to our intervention tab. And you're going to want to make sure that your interventions are set up. Okay, so you just enter a code to what your intervention is, and then what the description of that intervention. And then is that a medication, or do we want to prompt for a medication? Okay. So then we can go into our, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So we have to enter our interventions manually into this portion of the system, and we're developing the code.
Yes.
Perfect.
So if you want to just put it in one facility, I can copy it to all the rest. So don't bother putting it in a whole bunch of facilities. I could just copy it for you. Same thing with your libraries. So if you go in and create a library list of items in one of your facilities and you want that across all of your facilities, I can just copy all of that data over versus you guys having to do extra work.
Okay.
I think Pacific Views is already loaded. You could probably take ours.
Okay. If you want to look at that before and then just send me a yes transfer email.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Right. So now we're going to go into our resident orders.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to click on Wilma because I know Wilma's got a plethora of antipsychotics. So she's got alprazolam here. That's a PRN. So we're going to go to the Advanced tab and check the box that says Record Non-Pharmacological Interventions and hit Save. All right, so now when I go into the MedPass for Bertha, I'm going to go into the PRN MedPass. Oh, not Bertha, Wilma, sorry. And I'm going to click on her alprazolam and hit Next. Now the screen's going to look a little different, okay? So we've got our PRN medication here. We've got the amount that we're going to give. We've got the reason that we're going to give it. And then we have our interventions. So these are the interventions that I used. I tried a one-on-one, I tried to change the position, I tried to offer fluid, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually I ended up giving this medication. So those are the 3 things that I've tried. The follow-up time will stay 1 hour from now. You can still add a note if you need to, and then you would just hit record all.
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. Does everyone understand that process? And I'll take a look at Pacific View interventions, and we'll have those copied over so we don't have to recreate the wheel. Okay? Any questions? Any questions about anything thus far? Okay. Next issue is our possible discussion point is narcotics. I'm trying to remember why I added that to the list, Rachel. I don't know that it was the narcotic administration. Could we look at one of those NMR?
Like a narcotic you want it on the MedPass? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's click on Delbert, I think. Delbert, yep. Here, he's got a hydrocodone right here. In the middle.
Okay. Tiana, what was it with narcotics when I was on site and we were talking about, it could have been interventions for PRN narcotics.
And that would be the same case scenario. If you want your PRNs to be recorded, you would just check that non-pharmacological intervention box on the Advanced tab on any PRN medication.
Okay. And there's not a different way when it comes to destruction.
So destroying medications, you've got your med disposition button under inventory. Is that what you're currently using?
Oh, under inventory. Okay.
Yeah, they moved it from the home screen because the home screen was getting a little too many buttons. So you've got inventory and med disposition.
Okay, so we go to the inventory tab.
Mm-hmm. You want me to walk you through med disposition?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're going to go to inventory tab, select med disposition to destroy a medication. As always, you have to have a witness. So a witness would need to log in. Once the witness is logged in, it'll take us to our med disposition screen. We're going to select the resident for which we want to destroy a medication for. We're going to select Shelly here. And Shelly's got 25 hydrocodone, and the order's been DC'd, so we want to get rid of them. So you have your methods here. And again, any drop down you see in QMAR is customizable. So we're just going to say that we flush them, even though we're not supposed to. And then the reason is because it's discontinued. We're going to enter a quantity into the disposed quantity box. It always defaults to 1. So if you select save now, you're only going to destroy 1. So changing that number is important. So I'm going to put 25 there. I can add a comment if needed. So if I wanted to say that this order was discontinued on 6/24, I could put that in there. And then I hit save. Now when I hit save, it drops it down here to the bottom left-hand corner, and I can keep destroying. And you'll see here now that hydrocodone is now at 0. It was 25, now it's 0. So I can keep going. So her fentanyl was also destroyed. So I want to destroy 5 of these. So I'm going to go down here to my disposed quantity, everything stays the same. I'm just going to hit save. And then it drops it down here. So you can see which ones you've disposed of. And then there are reports for that, obviously. So if we go to reports, inventory, med disposition log, you select your start date. So do you want your start date to be a month? Where do you want your start date to be? And we're just going to select today. I'm going to hit view report. You have the option to select specific carts, specific reasons, patients, and a method. And here we have the medication, the fentanyl patch, the quantity that was destroyed, the method, the reason, who did it, and who the witness was. And then any additional comments will be printed in this box here.
Okay.
Peggy, with med destruction for narcotics, are we still using the books as well in conjunction with this? Or?
We use the books for, yes, we do. They do use the spiral narcotic book.
We'll still need to do that.
They'll still have that. Okay. And then they'll move that information over to here.
Okay. You do have the option to do a shift change in QMAR if you should choose to go that route.
Can you show us that?
Of course. So the biggest thing about inventory management is receiving the meds. If a medication hasn't been received, you obviously can't pass that medication because nothing less than 0 is a negative number, and we can't have a negative number. So we're going to go to receive meds. We're going to select the source for which we received these meds. So we're just going to be Smith's Pharmacy today and select OK. All right, so from this screen, what you can do is you can either scan your package or you can click pick from the list. And that pick from list is right here. So when we select pick from list, it's going to bring up a list of all of the residents. You can click the show inventoried only drugs. So if I check that, what are controlled medications? And then let's just say I want to add some fentanyl patches for Shelly Anderson. I'm going to double click on that fentanyl, and I'm going to say that we are receiving 5. You can also see that the current quantity is printed right here, and current quantity is 0. I'm going to select OK to add that. Now you'll see in the background of my screen here, we have that fentanyl being added. You can continue to add more. So maybe if I also receive some lorazepam for her, I want to add those in there. I received another package of 30, so I'm going to put 30 in there and select OK, and then done. So now these 2 orders are what I'm going to add in there. I'm going to select done from this screen. I can delete them if I don't want to add them, but I'm going to hit done. When I hit done, that adds that inventory in there. Now, when I go to pass the medications, that also looks just a little bit different. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pass medications for Shelly. I'm going to give Shelly her 2 controlled substances. Hit next. All right, so I've got her controlled substances there. Her pounds. And then when I hit record all, I'm now going to see here that I have fentanyl. It's going to tell me that my remaining quantity is 4. Is that correct? Yes. I have my hydrocodone. My remaining count is 29. Is that correct? Yes. If I were to select no, what is going to happen is when I select no, essentially a task is going to be created so that I have to go back and resolve that hydrocodone count. And that task look exactly like this PRN follow-up does. It's just going to say the task name will be inventory, and then it'll just tell you to fix the hydrocodone count. So if I select yes for all of these, I'm going to select OK to accept the rest of the MedPass. Then it takes me back to the list of residents. That's the only difference that they'll see in the MedPass is those quantities decreasing.
So, Rachel, that is interesting to me. So does this allow us to stop using the paper binders of how we're doing our narcotic count and
Absolutely.
documentation?
It does.
Okay.
So you currently, when you have a book, you have to write down that you passed a med -1 resulting count. So the med pass takes care of that for you. Now, if I go in here, I'm going to go back to our home screen, and now I'm at the end of the shift, and I want to count with my person that's oncoming. So I'm going to click on the shift change button. Here I have a list of my residents and the orders that I need to count. So I always recommend that the oncoming person count the medications, and the offgoing person enter the medication count. So they're just going to go through here. They're going to put the medication count in. So I've got 5 fentanyl patches. I have 30 hydrocodone. Actually, I don't think I have any of those anymore. Okay, so I'm just going to say that I have 30 because I had 30 in for all of them. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't tell you how many they have, and the system count column is blank. So they actually have to count. The book doesn't, they can't look at and see, okay, it is 30, and they have to actually count their pills. And then hit reconcile. Then when I hit reconcile, anything that's lit up in red is wrong. So I've either miscounted, I've miskeyed, I've done something wrong. Okay. So, oh, yep, it is 4 patches. I thought it was 5. I'm going to change it to 4. Same thing with the hydrocodone. I'm going to go in and change that from 0 to 29. And I'm going to change the alprazolam to 29. Now, I'm just changing the number that I've entered. I'm not changing the count. So now when I hit reconcile, now everything's black, and I have my user. So the person that's logged in will put their password. And the person that's oncoming will put their username and password in. And then I hit done. Now, what's also great about the inventory is the amount of reports that you have. So I'm going to go to reports. I'm going to go to inventory, and I'm going to look at the shift change failure log because I want to see if they're counting, what's going on. So I'm going to select just today's date, the West Wing med cart. And now you'll see here we've got the resident, the order, the user count, and what the system actually said it was. So I entered 30 for all of these, but the system says they're actually 25. So it tells you what I put in, what the system said it was. So that's the shift change failure log. It'll just show you anytime a shift change was failed. You've also got shift change details. So it's going to be a current count successful shift change. We've got our shift change log, which is basically our narcotic count sheet. Let's see. Go ahead.
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, sorry. I thought that maybe there was a question. Okay. And then you have your current inventory, so you can view your inventory at a snapshot. So I can see what my current quantity is. What's also nice about adding this inventory feature in here is if you're tracking the inventory in QMAR, you can add a notification. So if your count gets down to, let's just say 5, you set your threshold to 5. Anytime a tracked medication quantity gets to 5, it can send either a text message, a QMAR notification, or an email letting you know that the count is 5. So then you can reorder that medication.
Can we change that to 7? Do we have the ability to customize
Absolutely, yep.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Can you change it to like how many days of the medication is left instead of how many actual pills are left?
No. No, it tracks by the quantity that's in there, how many pills you have. So then one other place that you can view the inventory, so if there's a discrepancy with the inventory, I'm going to click on Wilma, and I'm going to go to Wilma's alprazolam, her PRN. I'm going to go to the Advanced tab, And now with the track inventory, I have this track inventory box, and then I have a little paper sheet here. That's my inventory log. So if I pull up my inventory log, it's going to tell me anything that's happened in the last 15 days. I can go back to the last 6 months, but here it's telling me that today we accepted a delivery of 15. Now our resulting count is 30. I passed one, resulting count is 29, et cetera, et cetera.
And this is inventory history. Okay.
Yep. It's just like your paper sheet that you would see in your 3-ring binder.
Right. So we can do away with our notes and just have this, and if we wanted to print a report, we could. We don't need to print it daily to show that the count has occurred, because we can log on here and see that our count was correct and that we have our our oncoming and our offgoing MedAid has entered their passwords and that they verified the count was correct. And we can use that for each situation with each resident. We don't need to have a binder where we're printing anything out.
Correct. You can also track non-controlled medications. So maybe you get medications from the VA and you get a 90-day supply. So you go in and let's just say we want to track it on this Januvia. Okay, I want to hit track inventory. It's not going to put it in my shift change because it's not a controlled medication, but I can track the inventory so every time I pass it, the quantity will still decrease by the number listed in this quantity box down here by the administration time. And then you can also have a notification for that med that says, okay, well, our quantity is 5 or whatever number you set your threshold to.
You leave that as a default. Track it.
Leave what as a default?
Track history.
Can we leave track history as the track inventory or track history?
Inventory.
Track inventory. Leave it as a default?
Yeah.
For all of them? Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
Can we do that,
So,
Rachel?
So you can go in and in your settings, you can say, I want to track non-controlled medications. You still have to go in here and check this box that says track inventory every time you get a medication that's not a controlled substance. So initially we can apply them to all, but going forward, anything would need to be checked as track inventory. One thing that I do want to tell you is that if you have track inventory checked, and you go to administer a medication. So let's go to administer her Januvia. So I'm going to go into the morning med pass. And I haven't added any count into this Januvia, so I'm going to hit next. So when I do that and I don't have a count in there, it's going to tell me that administering this Januvia would cause the inventory to be less than 0. Please correct the inventory by receiving the meds. So it gives you that error message when you're in the med pass if there's no quantity in there. So at this point, they would have to go back to the home screen, receive the med, and then they could go pass it.
Okay. So maybe moving forward with all new medications, we initiate the inventory tracking. I'll have to think about how we want to bring that on board.
Okay.
Okay, group, what other questions do you have? This has been really great help, Rachel. Thank you.
Of course. And you just had one other, actually it's titled Other, box use, and I think I have an idea of what you're talking about. I just want to make sure. I think it's the other instruction box. Is that what you were referring to?
Yes.
Okay. So with some certain pharmacies will not let you override the instructions. So these instructions that are here are what's on your label. Now, if you want to add something to the instruction box, you're going to click this little green plus sign that says Add Note and add whatever you want to in there. So maybe they sent over a sliding scale without the parameters, or they sent over a blood pressure medication without the parameters. You can add those Here, this shows in this pass that the instructions do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Pacific View, do you have any questions?
No, we have no questions.
View, questions?
Yeah, Rachel, could you just go over everything you just went over again so I can get it in my head?
Sure, no problem.
From operations, it's clear as mud, but no, I get it. Actually, I got a lot out of this, so thank you.
Good.
Sandy, I think you want to strive to be our QMAR expert. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's just it.
Okay, Wheatfield, do you have any questions? Caitlin?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I don't have any questions. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, this has been very helpful. We may have to schedule another one in the near future, but Stephen will work with you to set that up if we have another list that grows. And we do appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Of course. You guys are welcome. You guys have an excellent 4th of July. Let me know if you need anything else.
All right, you too. Talk to you later, Rachel.
Yep, you guys have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.